Let your breath slow as we drift back through time toward a world touched by candlelight and quiet fields where the sky stretched endlessly above the English countryside. The year is 1642, and the world is changing, filled with conflict, uncertainty, and questions no one could yet answer. But somewhere beyond the noise of kings and empires, in a small stone farmhouse nestled among the rolling hills of Lincolnshire, a child is born who will one day reshape our understanding of the universe. His name is Isaac Newton. Imagine the soft rustle of wind moving across winter branches, the gentle hum of distant farmland, and the quiet crackle of a hearth inside a dimly lit room. This is where his story begins, not in a grand palace or the halls of scholars, but in silence. Newton entered the world small, fragile, and early, so tiny that no one believed he would survive the night. Yet in that calm, uncertain beginning, there rested a spark that would someday illuminate the laws that govern all motion, all matter, and the very fabric of existence. Tonight, we follow that spark gently and slowly through the quiet moments that shaped his life. We walk beside him as a lonely boy who found comfort in the patterns of nature, as a young student who sought refuge in books when the world felt distant, as a thinker who gazed at the heavens and saw not chaos, but harmony, a hidden order waiting patiently to be understood. Let the soft rhythm of this story guide you toward rest. Let the calm unravel the thoughts of your day, and let the life of Isaac Newton drift into your mind like a gentle breeze crossing an open field. Because this is not just the story of a scientist, it is the story of a quiet soul who found beauty in logic, peace in solitude, and truth in the silent language of the universe. When you're ready, we will begin now. Isaac Newton's story begins in the quiet village of Woolsthorpe, a small rural corner of Lincolnshire, where rolling hills rose gently toward the horizon and the air seemed to move at its own slow rhythm. Life there was simple and steady, shaped by the cycles of farming and the quiet hum of nature. The days were filled with the sound of wind brushing through wheat fields, the distant calls of grazing animals, and the soft creak of wooden carts passing along dirt paths. It was a peaceful environment, a world that offered little distraction and abundant space for reflection. In this quiet landscape, the foundations of Newton's extraordinary mind quietly began to form. He entered the world during a harsh winter on Christmas Day in 1642. Born prematurely and so small that he could be held in a single hand, his survival seemed uncertain. Neighbors whispered that the frail infant might not live past the night. Yet Isaac endured, breathing gently against the cold air of the stone farmhouse. His mother, Hannah Askow, watched over him with quiet worry, unaware that this fragile child would one day change humanity's understanding of the cosmos. The beginning of his life was not dramatic or triumphant. It was soft, fragile, and filled with uncertainty. Isaac's father had passed away before he was born, leaving his mother to raise him in solitude. She remarried when Isaac was only 3 years old, moving away to live with her new husband and leaving Isaac in the care of his grandmother. This separation marked the first of many quiet emotional moments that shaped his character. Newton was not an outspoken or expressive child. He held his feelings inward. Yet the absence of his mother left a subtle imprint, a sense of loneliness that later pushed him toward self-reliance and inner worlds of thought. These early experiences, though difficult, nurtured his introspective nature. Life with his grandmother was calm but uneventful. Isaac spent much of his childhood observing the world around him, noticing details others overlooked. He would sit beside the farmhouse window for long stretches of time, watching shadows move across the ground as the sun drifted overhead. He studied the patterns of raindrops on the glass and the way dust floated lazily in sunbeams. Even as a young boy, Isaac seemed drawn to structure, order, and the hidden rhythms of nature. His mind approached the world like a puzzle waiting to be understood. He found comfort in small creations of his own making. Isaac constructed tiny windmills, using scraps of wood and bits of cloth, carefully assembling them to catch the breeze. He carved mechanical toys, designed simple water wheels, and built models that moved with surprising precision for a child his age. His inventions were not the random play of a curious boy, they were thoughtful experiments. Isaac wanted to see how things worked, to watch motion appear from stillness. Each small creation gave him a glimpse of the deeper principles that governed the world. Despite his gentle nature, Isaac experienced moments of frustration, especially during interactions with other children. He was often quiet and preferred solitude over play, which made it difficult for him to connect. When provoked or challenged, however, he demonstrated a determination that surprised those around him. On one occasion, after a classmate bullied him, Isaac channeled his anger not into violence, but into achievement. Resolving to surpass the other boy academically, he succeeded, rising quickly to the top of his class. Even in childhood, Newton expressed emotion not through outbursts, but through relentless dedication. As he grew older, Isaac's fascination with books grew as well. He devoured whatever he could find: religious texts, outdated almanacs, and simple arithmetic manuals. The village offered few academic resources, but he absorbed every scrap of information available. Reading became a refuge, a place where his mind could wander freely. He built makeshift lanterns to read at night, often staying awake long after the household slept. Books opened doors to worlds far beyond Woolsthorpe's quiet fields, fueling a curiosity that stretched beyond the boundaries of his small village. At school in nearby Grantham, Isaac lodged with a local family and studied under the guidance of Mr. Stokes, a teacher who recognized his growing abilities. Grantham offered more structure than Woolsthorpe and exposed Isaac to new ideas, subjects, and peers. He spent hours exploring the town, observing the architecture, the movement of shadows across walls, and the mechanisms of simple machines. Isaac was not a social child, but he found comfort in learning. His mind thrived in environments where thinking was encouraged, and Grantham provided the space he needed to grow intellectually. During this time, Isaac's interest in drawing and writing flourished. He kept personal notebooks filled with sketches of the moon, diagrams of sundials, and early attempts to measure time using the movement of shadows. He drew detailed illustrations of plants, weather patterns, and the angles of rooftops. His notebooks also contained lists of questions, dozens of them, asking why rain falls, why the wind shifts, and how light travels. These early writings reveal a mind already working methodically, cataloging observations, and forming the beginnings of scientific inquiry. The turning point in Isaac's early life came when he was nearly forced to abandon his studies. Upon the death of her second husband, Isaac's mother returned to Woolsthorpe and planned for him to manage the family farm. She hoped he would take on the practical responsibilities of daily labor, tending fields and overseeing livestock. But Isaac struggled. His mind drifted away from farm work to thoughts of angles, measurements, and secret laws governing nature. He was prone to daydreaming, more interested in studying wind patterns than feeding animals. Farming simply did not align with the rhythm of his inner world. His schoolmaster, Mr. Stokes, recognizing Isaac's potential, intervened. He urged Hannah to let the boy continue his education, insisting that Isaac was meant for academic pursuits rather than agricultural work. Reluctantly, she agreed. Isaac returned to Grantham with renewed focus, determined to excel and prove that his talents belonged elsewhere. This decision became a quiet shift that would alter the trajectory of history. Without it, Newton might never have become the scientist the world remembers. As Isaac settled back into his studies, he became increasingly absorbed in the mechanics of the world. He built sundials with remarkable accuracy, using nothing but simple tools and careful observation. These devices told time with precision that surprised his teachers. He developed an interest in geometry, experimenting with shapes, angles, and lines. He asked himself how things moved, how objects fell, and what invisible forces governed the motions of the sky. The questions that later defined his genius began taking root during these early years, yet Isaac's life remained deeply solitary. He relied on no one for emotional comfort, preferring the company of his thoughts. He spent long afternoons sitting alone in the school attic, watching dust drift through slanted rays of sunlight. He traced shadows across the floorboards, measured the angles, and noted how they changed with the passing hours. This quiet, introspective study strengthened his ability to observe patterns others never noticed. For Isaac, solitude was not loneliness. It was a sanctuary for thinking. When Isaac reached his late teens, it became clear that his intellectual abilities exceeded the possibilities available in Grantham. With strong encouragement from his teachers, he prepared to attend Trinity College at Cambridge University. The idea of leaving his quiet village stirred a mix of anxiety and anticipation within him. Woolsthorpe had given him space to think, but Cambridge promised knowledge that would shape him into something greater. Isaac carried with him not confidence, but curiosity, a steady, gentle willingness to learn whatever the world could teach him. The path to Cambridge was not glamorous. Isaac arrived not as a wealthy scholar, but as a subsizar, a student who worked in exchange for tuition assistance. He cleaned rooms, served wealthier students, and performed small tasks to support his studies. Yet these duties did not discourage him. Isaac approached them with quiet acceptance, understanding that the opportunity to learn was worth any labor. His days were divided between tasks and reading, the latter filling him with a sense of purpose he had never experienced before. At Cambridge, Isaac encountered a world of ideas far richer than anything he had seen. He studied mathematics, philosophy, and astronomy, immersing himself in the works of scholars like Descartes, Kepler, and Galileo. But he was not content merely to accept their conclusions. Isaac questioned everything, analyzing each argument with a calm, persistent logic. Even as a young student, he began forming ideas that subtly challenged the foundations of existing knowledge. His mind was restless, always searching for deeper truths. Isaac often studied late into the night, illuminated only by candlelight. He scribbled equations, filled notebooks with diagrams, and retraced the logic of the great thinkers before him. But he also followed his own path, building upon their work with insights uniquely his. His professors noticed his quiet intensity, though few realized how deeply he was rethinking the structure of mathematics and physics. For Isaac, learning was not about memorization, it was about discovery. The calm routine of Cambridge life suited Isaac. He enjoyed the quiet corners of the library, the long walks across campus, and the gentle rhythm of seasons passing over the ancient university buildings. The environment provided the stillness his mind needed to expand. He observed the world as if it were a grand experiment unfolding before him. The movement of clouds, the shifting of shadows, the way light reflected off water. Everything contained meaning, waiting to be understood. Yet even at Cambridge, Isaac remained largely withdrawn. He kept to himself, avoided social gatherings, and often seemed lost in thought. But this solitude allowed something extraordinary to grow within him, a mind that connected ideas in ways no one else could. He was still young, still learning, still unsure of the future, but the seeds of greatness were already taking shape, quietly and steadily, beneath the surface. Cambridge in the mid-1600s was a world of soft candlelight, echoing halls, and quiet, intellectual energy. Students walked between stone buildings with books pressed to their chests, their footsteps softened by damp courtyards and mist drifting from the River Cam. It was a place where ideas moved more freely than people did, where ancient traditions lived alongside the stirrings of scientific curiosity. For Isaac Newton, who arrived timid and uncertain, Cambridge felt like stepping into a vast, living library. The walls seemed to hum with knowledge, and every lecture opened a new door in his mind. Isaac entered Trinity College as a subsizar, a student who worked to cover his expenses. His duties included cleaning rooms, serving meals, and performing small tasks for wealthier scholars. Though this role carried little prestige, Isaac accepted it with the same quiet endurance he had learned in childhood. Responsibility never distracted him from study. When he finished his chores, he retreated to his small room, where he surrounded himself with books borrowed from the college library. Night after night, he read by the dim light of a tallow candle, letting ideas fill the silence. At first, his studies followed the structure of the traditional curriculum: Latin, rhetoric, classical philosophy, and Aristotelian natural philosophy. These subjects were expected, stable, and deeply rooted in centuries of academic tradition. But Isaac found little satisfaction in repeating ancient assumptions. Aristotle's teachings, though respected, felt incomplete to him. The world he observed through careful attention did not always match the theories he read in books. His professors could not yet see it, but Newton was already beginning to diverge from the comfortable path of repetition and memorized truth. The spark that changed everything came when Isaac encountered the writings of new thinkers: Descartes, Kepler, Galileo, and others who questioned the old frameworks. These works circulated quietly among students eager for new explanations. Isaac devoured them with an appetite that bordered on obsession. Descartes offered mathematical clarity, Kepler revealed patterns in planetary motion, and Galileo provided a foundation for the laws of falling bodies. Newton absorbed their ideas not as conclusions, but as beginnings. He saw in their work the possibility of rewriting the rules that governed nature. As his interest in mathematics grew, Isaac developed a habit of jotting ideas on any scrap of paper he could find: margins of books, loose sheets, even the wooden walls of his room when inspiration struck. He explored geometry, algebra, and the mysteries of infinite series. Mathematics felt like a language he had always known, but never spoken. Numbers flowed naturally from his mind, arranging themselves into patterns that revealed deeper truths. He spent long hours manipulating equations, seeking hidden relationships that others had overlooked. In this practice, Isaac found a form of peace. While other students socialized or debated philosophy in communal halls, Isaac preferred solitude. He took quiet walks through the courtyards, thinking deeply about the problems he encountered in his studies. He found comfort in the structure of the university, the predictability of lectures, the rhythm of bells, the soft murmur of scholars passing by. Yet, he remained distant, drifting through Cambridge like a thoughtful shadow. His relationships were few, but his ideas grew steadily, nurtured by silence and discipline. In 1664, Newton began keeping a notebook that would later reveal the early formation of his extraordinary mind. He titled it Quaestiones, meaning questions, and filled it with reflections on the nature of motion, light, force, and matter. Each entry marked a step toward a new worldview. He questioned how objects moved, why planets followed predictable paths, and what invisible principles structured the universe. These were not the questions of a student repeating lessons. They were the questions of a thinker building a new foundation. As Newton's abilities grew, he began attending advanced mathematical lectures. His understanding developed so quickly that he often solved problems before the lecturers had finished presenting them. One of his professors later admitted that Newton possessed a clarity greater than any scholar he had taught. But Isaac did not pursue recognition. He approached learning with humility, seeing every discovery as the beginning of a deeper question. His mind was opening, expanding in quiet ways even he did not yet fully understand. One of Isaac's early breakthroughs came from a problem proposed by René Descartes, a challenge that many scholars struggled to solve. Newton not only solved it, but expanded upon it, creating methods that would lay the foundation for calculus. He did this not for praise, nor for academic advancement, but because it brought him joy. Solving mathematical problems gave him a sense of harmony, as if numbers mirrored the structure of nature. He kept these insights largely to himself, unaware of how monumental they would later become. Isaac's intellectual world changed again when he began studying the nature of light. Many believed that light traveled instantaneously or behaved in simple, straightforward ways. But Newton noticed complexities, colors refracting differently through glass, shadows softening with distance, beams scattering into spectra. He conducted small experiments in his room using prisms, candles, and darkened windows to examine how light split into colors. These observations ignited a new curiosity within him. Nature was speaking in patterns, and he was learning to listen. Despite the growing brilliance of his mind, Isaac remained deeply human. He struggled with self-doubt, often unsure whether his ideas held any value. He worried that he misunderstood concepts or saw patterns where none existed. His introspective nature made him hesitant to share discoveries, fearing criticism or misunderstanding. Yet these doubts did not stop him from working. Instead, they encouraged him to refine, to seek clarity, and to verify his thoughts with precise observation. His humility, combined with his determination, became one of his greatest strengths. Isaac's progress at Cambridge might have continued steadily if not for the world beyond the university walls. In 1665, the Great Plague swept through England, forcing Cambridge to close its doors. Students were sent home, scholars dispersed, and the quiet academic rhythm Isaac loved came to an abrupt end. He returned to Woolsthorpe, unsure how long the disruption would last. But fate had delivered him an unexpected gift: solitude, time, and space to think without interruption. In the quiet fields of his childhood, Isaac was about to enter the most productive period of his entire life. Woolsthorpe was much as he had left it, peaceful, still, and removed from the chaos unfolding elsewhere. The plague, though devastating in the cities, had not yet touched the isolation of the countryside. Isaac settled into a simple routine. He studied in his small room, walked through the orchard behind the farmhouse, and spent hours contemplating the patterns of nature. Freed from lectures and chores, his mind expanded effortlessly, reaching into territories few had ever explored. This period would later be called his annus mirabilis, his year of wonders. During these months of solitude, Newton developed the foundations of calculus, not through formal study but through quiet exploration. He observed the way quantities changed, the slope of curves, and the behavior of moving objects. His thoughts flowed like water, forming new pathways that revealed deeper truths. He did not see these breakthroughs as revolutionary. He saw them as natural answers to questions he had been asking for years. Alone in Woolsthorpe, he had time to pursue them with no distractions, no expectations, and no limits. One gentle afternoon, while sitting in the orchard, Isaac watched an apple fall from a tree. The moment was simple, a soft thud on grass, a movement so ordinary that anyone else would have ignored it. But Isaac saw something hidden within the motion. Why did the apple fall downward? What force pulled it? Did the same force act on the moon? This quiet moment sparked a question that would lead him toward one of the most important discoveries in history. It was not the apple itself that mattered, but the mind that observed it. Newton began contemplating gravity as a universal force, not limited to falling apples, but shaping the motion of celestial bodies. The moon's orbit, the tides, and the paths of planets might all be governed by the same invisible pull. The idea was bold, almost unimaginable. Yet Isaac approached it calmly, testing the concept with equations, diagrams, and careful reasoning. Under the quiet skies of Woolsthorpe, he distilled the early form of what would later become the law of universal gravitation. He also deepened his experiments with light. Using prisms, darkened rooms, and carefully controlled angles, Newton discovered that white light contained a spectrum of colors. These colors, combined again, produced white light once more. This revelation countered long-held beliefs and opened a new field of optical study. Isaac recorded his observations patiently, fascinated by the hidden structure of something as ordinary as light. The simplicity of the countryside helped him see complexity with clarity. In addition to calculus, gravity, and optics, Newton pursued studies of motion, developing the ideas that would later become his 3 laws of motion. He examined how bodies accelerated, how forces interacted, and how inertia shaped movement. His notebooks from this period show a mind working at extraordinary depth, quiet, methodical, and driven by pure observation. There was no academic pressure, no competition, and no need for recognition. His discoveries grew naturally like fruit ripening in the gentle light of Woolsthorpe. Yet even during this miraculous period, Isaac remained humble. He did not consider himself a genius. He saw himself as a student of nature, someone following clues left by creation. When he later reflected on this time, he described himself as a child walking along a seashore, finding smooth pebbles while the great ocean of truth lay undiscovered before him. This humility shaped everything he did and made his discoveries all the more remarkable. As the plague subsided and Cambridge reopened, Isaac prepared to return to the university. He carried with him notebooks filled with insights that would someday transform science. Yet he felt no urgency to share them. His mind moved slowly, patiently, processing ideas like a craftsman, refining a delicate piece of work. Isaac returned to Cambridge not as a student seeking knowledge, but as a thinker, quietly holding the beginnings of a new scientific era. When he resumed his studies, professors noticed a subtle change. Isaac seemed more focused, more certain, and more confident in his thinking. He continued to explore mathematics, optics, and the principles of motion with a depth that surpassed conventional study. His solitude in Woolsthorpe had refined his mind, giving him clarity and perspective. But the world still had no idea what he had accomplished. His discoveries remained hidden in notebooks, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Isaac's early years at Cambridge and Woolsthorpe shaped him into the thinker he would become, quiet, introspective, and extraordinarily perceptive. He learned not from instruction alone, but from observation, patience, and the stillness of nature. These qualities prepared him for the monumental discoveries that awaited him in the chapters to come. When Isaac Newton returned to Cambridge after the plague years, he carried more than notebooks and calculations. He carried the quiet beginnings of ideas that would redefine the natural world. Yet he re-entered university life without fanfare. To the outside world, he was still a modest, soft-spoken young scholar who worked diligently and kept to himself. He resumed attending lectures, completing duties, and walking through the stone courtyards as though nothing extraordinary had happened, but within him something had changed. His time alone at Woolsthorpe had reshaped his understanding of nature, giving clarity to questions that once felt impossible. Cambridge welcomed him back with its familiar rhythm. Bell towers marked the passing hours, the scent of parchment drifted through lecture halls, and scholars murmured theories over candlelit desks. Newton, however, remained on the fringes of social circles, quietly observing the academic world around him. He preferred solitude, a small desk, a dim candle, and stacks of books arranged in careful order. He continued to question established ideas, studying not to repeat them, but to refine or replace them. This subtle separation from the traditional curriculum gave him the freedom to think beyond its boundaries. One of the first breakthroughs Newton revisited after returning to Cambridge was his evolving understanding of calculus. He refined his methods, layering new insights onto the foundations he had built at Woolsthorpe. Many students at the university struggled with even basic mathematical concepts, yet Newton navigated complex problems with an intuitive ease. He saw mathematics not as a tool but as a companion, a language through which nature whispered its principles. He used it to explore curves, motion, and change, shaping theories that would eventually underpin physics itself. His interest in optics also resurfaced with new intensity. Isaac constructed small experiments in his room, using prisms, mirrors, and the limited materials available. Cambridge's narrow windows provided shafts of sunlight that he carefully manipulated, observing how beams bent, fractured, and rejoined. He darkened rooms with thick cloth and carved holes in shutters to control incoming light. Each experiment carried the same calm patience that defined his thinking. Newton did not rush discoveries. He allowed them to reveal themselves slowly, like dawn emerging from darkness. It was during this period that Newton made one of his earliest public contributions. He invented a new type of reflecting telescope, smaller and sharper than the refracting telescopes of his time. By using a curved mirror instead of a lens, his design avoided the distortions that troubled earlier instruments. Cambridge scholars were astonished by its clarity and efficiency. Newton's telescope was a quiet demonstration of his analytical mind, bridging mathematical understanding with practical craftsmanship. Though he built it without seeking admiration, the device quickly drew attention to his abilities. The growing recognition unsettled him. Isaac was uncomfortable in the spotlight, preferring anonymity over praise. When professors asked him to present the telescope to the Royal Society, he hesitated. The idea of standing before accomplished scientists made him uneasy, but eventually, encouraged by those around him, he agreed. The presentation was modest, but the impact was profound. Scholars marveled at the design, asking questions that Newton answered with calm precision. Though he spoke sparingly, his brilliance was unmistakable. Without intending to, he had stepped into the scientific world. Following this success, the Royal Society requested a written explanation of his experiments with light. Newton submitted a paper outlining his discovery that white light was composed of many colors. What he saw as a simple observation was, to others, a revolutionary claim. Many scholars disagreed, arguing that his findings contradicted established optical theories. Critical letters circulated. Debates arose. Newton found himself pushed into a public argument he had never wanted. The attention, the criticism, the expectations all felt overwhelming. Newton's response was characteristic. He withdrew. He stopped attending meetings, avoided discussions, and distanced himself from the Royal Society. Conflict disrupted the quiet flow of his mind, and his instinct was always to retreat to solitude. In the stillness of his room, he continued working privately, filling pages with formulas and diagrams that few would see for decades. Though discouraged, he did not stop thinking. Within the shelter of silence, his ideas continued to grow, untouched by the noise of criticism. This period of retreat did not diminish his productivity. Newton deepened his exploration of gravity, revisiting the orchard moment that had sparked his earlier curiosity. He refined calculations regarding the moon's orbit, comparing observations with mathematical predictions. He recognized that gravitational force decreased with distance, and that the same principle influencing falling apples also governed the paths of planets. These thoughts were vast, interconnected, and profound, yet he shared them with no one. The universe was unfolding in his mind quietly and patiently. While Newton worked in isolation, colleagues at Cambridge noticed his increasing depth of understanding. Professors recognized that his grasp of mathematics surpassed that of any scholar they had encountered. His ability to see through problems, to untangle complexity with gentle precision, was unmatched. He was appointed a Fellow of Trinity College, a position that allowed him greater access to books, instruments, and research materials. This recognition gave him stability, though he remained emotionally distant. Academic life was a structure that supported him, but his true focus was always internal. As he progressed, Newton began teaching. His lectures were quiet, technical, and delivered with minimal flair. Students sometimes struggled to follow his reasoning, not because his explanations lacked clarity, but because his thoughts operated years ahead of the curriculum. He wrote detailed notes, filled with proofs and theories that would later become foundational to science. His teaching style reflected his personality, calm, thoughtful, and unhurried. Even when few fully understood him, he continued his work with gentle consistency. During this time, Newton expanded his studies into areas that seemed unrelated: alchemy, theology, chronology, and ancient texts. His curiosity knew no boundaries. He searched for hidden patterns in Scripture, attempted to decipher coded messages in ancient symbols, and studied the properties of metals and minerals. These pursuits puzzled modern historians, but for Newton, they were deeply connected to his worldview. He believed that truth was unified, that the natural and the spiritual were woven from the same fabric. Every subject offered a piece of a larger puzzle. Newton's interest in alchemy was especially intense. He spent countless nights heating substances, observing transformations, and recording reactions. He treated these experiments with the same precision he applied to mathematics. To him, alchemy was not superstition, but an early form of chemistry, a way to understand the hidden structures of matter. While the mystical context appealed to his imagination, the practical experiments strengthened his scientific insight. In the quiet of his laboratory, illuminated only by the faint glow of burning coals, Newton blended curiosity with discipline. As years passed, Newton's ideas matured, but he still hesitated to publish them. He feared misunderstanding, criticism, and the emotional toll of public debate. His mind moved in delicate patterns, thriving in silence. Sharing his thoughts felt like exposing something deeply personal. So he hid his manuscripts, storing his theories in drawers and leaving them untouched for long stretches of time. It was not reluctance, but protection. He wanted his ideas to be complete before facing the world. The turning point came unexpectedly. In 1684, the astronomer Edmund Halley visited Newton at Cambridge, seeking clarity on the mathematical principles governing planetary motion. Halley posed a question that had puzzled astronomers for decades. What force causes planets to orbit the sun in elliptical paths? Newton replied with calm certainty. He had solved it years earlier. Surprised, Halley pressed him for details. Newton retrieved his old papers, covered in careful notes and faded ink. As Halley examined them, he realized that Newton had quietly solved the core of orbital mechanics. This encounter stirred something within Newton, a subtle shift from silence toward expression. Halley encouraged him not only to refine his work, but to publish it. Newton hesitated, fearing criticism once again, but Halley persisted with gentle insistence. He recognized the magnitude of Newton's discoveries and offered support, both emotional and financial, to ensure that Newton's work reached the world. Halley's encouragement became a guiding light, helping Newton move past his reluctance. Newton began writing with renewed focus. He transformed scattered notes into structured arguments, refining equations and clarifying principles. His mind moved with calm intensity, weaving mathematics into a unified explanation of the universe. He worked long into the night, the glow of a candle illuminating pages filled with diagrams and formulas. Slowly, the pieces coalesced into a monumental work, a book that would become one of the most influential scientific texts in history. This was the beginning of Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica. Yet even during this extraordinary period, Isaac remained true to his nature. He worked not for fame or recognition, but because the laws of the universe felt like a quiet calling he could not ignore. Each completed page brought him closer to expressing truths he had carried silently for years. And as the manuscript grew, so did the sense that his understanding had matured enough to share. When Isaac Newton began shaping his scattered notes into a coherent manuscript, the world around him moved at its usual rhythm. Quiet lectures, soft footsteps echoing through Cambridge courtyards, and the steady procession of scholars absorbed in their daily work. But inside Newton's room, something extraordinary was unfolding. The silence he had always cherished became the backdrop for the most ambitious intellectual undertaking of his life. Here, with nothing but candlelight, paper, and a determined mind, Newton prepared to express the laws that governed the heavens. He approached the work with a gentle intensity, moving carefully from one idea to the next. Each equation, each diagram, and each explanation felt like a small piece of a larger tapestry. Newton believed that nature operated according to simple, universal laws, principles that could explain everything from a falling apple to the orbit of the moon. As he wrote, the universe slowly revealed itself in orderly patterns. For Newton, the process was not a race, but a meditation, a steady unraveling of questions he had carried quietly since his youth. Edmund Halley visited often, offering encouragement and checking Newton's progress with sincere admiration. Halley sensed the magnitude of what Newton was creating. He listened patiently as Newton explained the delicate interplay of forces and motion, often pausing to refine a calculation or adjust a diagram. Halley's presence helped soothe Newton's lingering fears about sharing his work publicly. Their conversations were calm, thoughtful, and filled with mutual respect, the kind of support Newton rarely accepted from others. In Halley, he found someone who understood both his brilliance and his sensitivity. As months passed, the manuscript grew into something remarkable. Newton organized it in a structure that reflected his methodical nature, first laying out mathematical principles, then applying them to physical phenomena, and finally demonstrating their power in explaining celestial motion. He moved through each section with care, ensuring that every argument flowed clearly into the next. The work was meticulous, but also deeply personal. It carried the essence of Newton's life: solitude, curiosity, patience, and a quiet devotion to understanding the world. During the writing process, Newton often felt overwhelmed by the weight of the ideas he was attempting to express. The universe was vast, filled with mysteries that had puzzled thinkers for centuries. Yet he approached each challenge with gentle perseverance. When he encountered difficulties in describing motion or gravitational force, he took long walks around Cambridge, letting the rhythm of his steps settle his thoughts. These walks brought clarity. By the time he returned to his desk, the ideas flowed more easily, as if the movement of his body helped echo the movement of the planets he studied. In 1687, after months of steady work, Newton completed the manuscript. Halley reviewed it with awe. The book, Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica, was unlike anything the world had seen. It presented a unified description of nature, connecting mathematics to the motion of bodies with unprecedented clarity. Newton's laws of motion, his formulation of gravity, and his analysis of celestial mechanics created a framework that explained the universe with gentle, elegant precision. It was as if he had listened to nature whisper its secrets and then translated them into language. But publication was not guaranteed. Printing such a work required resources, and the Royal Society faced financial difficulties. Halley, recognizing the importance of the project, offered to cover the costs himself. Newton was touched by this generosity, though he expressed little outward emotion. He thanked Halley quietly, acknowledging the support, not with speeches, but with subtle sincerity. In Halley's dedication, Newton found the kind of encouragement that helped him step beyond his natural reticence. When the Principia was finally published, its impact spread gradually. Scholars across Europe were astonished by the depth of Newton's insight. Some praised the clarity and strength of his reasoning, others struggled to comprehend its complexity. but most recognized that something profound had emerged, a new way of understanding nature. Newton had revealed that the forces governing everyday life were the same forces guiding the planets. The universe, once a mystery of isolated phenomena, was now seen as a harmonious system bound by universal laws. Despite the growing admiration, Newton remained serene and modest. He did not celebrate or seek recognition. Instead, he continued his quiet routine, teaching, writing, and refining his thoughts. The praise that surrounded the Principia felt distant to him, as though it belonged to another world. Newton had always worked for the sake of understanding, not for applause. To him, the greatest reward was the knowledge itself, the gentle realization that he had contributed clarity to the world's endless questions. Yet the success of the Principia brought challenges as well. Public attention made Newton uncomfortable, and criticism, even when mild, unsettled him. Scholars debated his ideas, some questioning his methods or conclusions. These discussions stirred old anxieties within him. He responded not with anger, but with withdrawal, retreating once more into solitude. His sensitivity, which had shaped him since childhood, remained a quiet presence in his life. Still, Newton continued exploring new areas of thought. He examined the behavior of comets, predicting their paths with the same calm precision he applied to planets. He investigated tides, recognizing the influence of the moon's gravitational pull. He returned to his optical experiments, refining his understanding of light. Each new study blended seamlessly with his previous work, forming a cohesive picture of a universe governed by order and symmetry. The more he learned, the more he sensed the unity of nature. During this period, Newton's personal life shifted as well. He managed financial matters with care, maintained correspondence with scholars across Europe, and took on administrative responsibilities at Cambridge. Though he remained emotionally distant from most people, a few colleagues sensed the warmth beneath his quiet demeanor. Newton was not cold, only private. Those who knew him well described a gentle intelligence, a thoughtful presence, and a deep commitment to truth. As the years passed, his reputation grew steadily. Major figures in science, mathematics, and philosophy looked to Newton's work as the foundation for their own. Some saw him as the greatest thinker of the age. But Newton stayed grounded, carrying himself with humility. He once wrote, "I do not know how I may appear to the world, but to myself I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore." These words reflected the essence of his character, a mind filled with wonder, never satisfied, always searching for deeper understanding. Despite the intellectual magnitude of the Principia, Newton experienced periods of exhaustion and emotional strain. The years of intense thinking had taken a toll on his well-being. He sometimes felt the weight of expectations pressing on him. Yet even in these moments, he found solace in his work. Mathematics, reflection, and quiet observation continued to soothe him, offering a refuge from the pressures of public life. His resilience came not from forcefulness, but from gentle persistence. Over time, Newton's interests expanded beyond mathematics and physics. He delved deeply into theology, seeking meaning in ancient texts. He examined prophecies and biblical chronology with the same analytical precision he applied to scientific studies. These pursuits revealed a different side of Newton, a man searching not only for the laws of nature, but for the moral and spiritual structure of the world. His faith, though unconventional, anchored his sense of purpose. He believed that understanding the universe was a way to honor its creator. Though he explored many areas of thought, Newton remained grounded in simplicity. He enjoyed the quiet of Cambridge, the familiar paths, and the slow passage of seasons. He found comfort in small routines, walking before dawn, working by candlelight, and organizing his papers with meticulous care. Life did not need to be loud for him to feel fulfilled. His greatest joys came from discovery and reflection, from the delicate alignment of thought and nature. In the years following the publication of the Principia, Newton formed meaningful relationships with a few trusted colleagues. These friendships, though understated, offered companionship he rarely allowed himself. He wrote letters filled with gentle explanations, shared manuscripts with caution, and discussed ideas in hushed tones within the quiet rooms of Trinity College. For those who earned his trust, Newton revealed a thoughtful, generous spirit, willing to guide, explain, and encourage. As time passed, Newton slowly came to accept the role the scientific world had given him. Scholars traveled great distances to meet him, hoping to understand the mind behind the Principia. They expected a commanding presence, but instead found a soft-spoken man who spoke thoughtfully and avoided grand declarations. His humility disarmed them. Newton explained ideas with patience, welcoming honest curiosity, but shying away from excessive praise. He believed that the true beauty of knowledge lay not in recognition, but in exploration. The influence of the Principia grew steadily. Its explanations of motion and gravity became the foundation for modern science, guiding thinkers for centuries to come. Yet Newton did not dwell on his achievements. His mind remained active, constantly searching for new insights. He returned to his early questions, revisiting them with the wisdom of experience. Nature to him was an endless source of wonder, always suggesting more than it revealed. In the years following the publication of the Principia, Isaac Newton's world began to shift in subtle yet profound ways. The once isolated scholar, who had lived so comfortably within the quiet halls of Cambridge, now found himself drawn steadily into the currents of public life. Despite his natural hesitance, his name traveled far beyond the university walls, carried by scholars, correspondents, and the growing recognition of his genius. Yet Newton himself remained unchanged in essence, calm, introspective, and quietly focused on the steady rhythm of thinking. Though celebrated for the Principia, Newton continued to work with the same gentle discipline that had always guided him. He refined his theories, adjusted equations, and scribbled notes in the margins of his manuscripts. He never viewed the Principia as a final answer, but rather as a foundation to be expanded. Newton believed that the universe held far more secrets than anyone could ever uncover, and that every discovery, no matter how profound, was only a single step toward deeper understanding. This mindset allowed him to remain humble despite the growing admiration of the scientific world. As the reputation of the Principia spread across Europe, Newton's correspondence increased. Letters arrived from France, Germany, the Netherlands, and distant parts of England, written by scholars eager to discuss his ideas or seek clarification. Newton responded politely, though often with brevity. He preferred clarity over flourish and focused his answers on the precise logic of mathematics and natural philosophy. His letters revealed a mind that valued calm reasoning over argument, explanation over debate. Through these exchanges, he formed quiet connections with some of the greatest thinkers of the era. However, not all correspondence was pleasant. Some scholars challenged his conclusions, offering criticisms that stirred the anxieties Newton had carried since his youth. He feared misunderstanding and often interpreted disagreement as a personal threat. During these moments, he returned to the solitude that had shaped his childhood. Long walks, hours spent in quiet rooms, and late nights studying by candlelight. His mind steadied itself through work, and the calm focus of mathematics once again brought him peace. Despite his private nature, Newton's role at Cambridge continued to grow. He was appointed Lucasian Professor of Mathematics, a prestigious position that allowed him to teach advanced topics and pursue research more freely. His lectures were dense and complex, often difficult for students to follow. Yet those who persisted found themselves drawn into the delicate structure of his reasoning. Newton did not teach for acclaim. He taught because it helped refine his own thinking. The chalk on the board, the slow unfolding of equations, and the quiet exchange of ideas all brought him a sense of grounding. Outside of mathematics and physics, Newton increasingly pursued his interests in alchemy and theology. These studies, though often misunderstood by modern audiences, were woven into the fabric of his worldview. Alchemy appealed to his sense of hidden order, inviting him to explore the transformation of matter. He performed countless experiments, heating, cooling, dissolving, and distilling substances as he sought patterns that mirrored the structure of the cosmos. He approached alchemy with the same calm discipline as his mathematical studies, believing that nature concealed its truths in layers. Theology occupied an even deeper part of Newton's intellectual life. He read ancient texts, studied biblical chronology, and examined the early history of Christianity. He approached Scripture not as static doctrine, but as a complex structure to be interpreted with reason. In these writings, Newton saw reflections of the same order he found in nature, symbols, patterns, and truths hidden beneath the surface. His theological notes filled hundreds of pages, written with the same quiet precision as his scientific work. For Newton, faith and science were not separate pursuits, but two pathways leading toward a single truth. As Newton's responsibilities expanded, he increasingly felt the weight of leadership. Cambridge relied on him for guidance, his students looked to him for clarity, and scholars across Europe sought his insight. These demands gradually pulled him away from the quiet study that had always sustained him. Though he fulfilled his duties with care, he sometimes longed for the simplicity of Woolsthorpe, the orchard, the soft hills, and the slow passing of the seasons. He carried that memory like a quiet refuge, a place he could return to in thought whenever the pressures of life grew heavy. During these years, Newton's relationship with Edmund Halley deepened into a supportive friendship. Halley often visited Cambridge, sharing news, discussing ideas, and encouraging Newton to remain engaged with the scientific community. Their conversations balanced seriousness with gentle understanding. Halley possessed a warmth that eased Newton's anxieties, while Newton offered a depth of insight Halley deeply admired. Their collaboration, though understated, shaped the development of modern science in ways both men understood only in part. But Newton also formed friendships with other scholars, including the mathematician Nicolas Fatio de Duillier. The two spent long hours discussing mathematics, astronomy, and the structure of the universe. Their bond was strong and intellectually rich, though it eventually faltered due to misunderstandings and personal differences. When the friendship dissolved, Newton felt the loss keenly. His sensitivity, long hidden beneath layers of quiet focus, revealed itself in moments like this. He withdrew again, using solitude to mend the quiet emotional wounds that accompanied the end of cherished connections. As the years progressed, Newton's responsibilities extended beyond academia. In 1696, he accepted a position as Warden of the Royal Mint in London, a role that would change the course of his life. Though the move away from Cambridge was difficult, Newton recognized the importance of the position. England faced widespread counterfeiting, and the currency was in disarray. Newton's calm precision and steadfast discipline made him uniquely suited for the task. He approached the job not merely as an administrative role, but as a challenge requiring rational order and careful thought. His work at the Mint was demanding but deeply structured, offering him a new environment where his methodical nature could flourish. Newton inspected coins, analyzed alloy compositions, and developed systems to detect forgeries. He also reformed the minting process, standardizing weights and refining quality. The task carried a seriousness that suited him. It required fairness, integrity, and attention to detail. Newton found quiet purpose in restoring order to England's currency, applying the same analytical mind that had deciphered the heavens. London life, however, differed greatly from the quiet halls of Cambridge. The city was bustling, filled with noise, crowds, and constant movement. Newton navigated it cautiously, seeking quiet corners and private routines to maintain his sense of calm. His new responsibilities left less time for scientific study, but he continued to think deeply, recording ideas when moments allowed. His desire to understand the world had not diminished, it had only evolved into new forms. Despite the intensity of his work at the Mint, Newton maintained correspondence with scholars across Europe. He exchanged ideas with astronomers, mathematicians, and philosophers, offering insights in his characteristic calm tone. He encouraged younger thinkers, reviewed new theories, and refined his own thoughts through discussions by letter. These exchanges revealed a gentler side of Newton, generous, thoughtful, and quietly supportive of emerging talent. Yet Newton's life in London also exposed him to the complexities of politics and public debate. He was elected to Parliament, served as President of the Royal Society, and participated in high-level discussions about science, economics, and governance. Though he never enjoyed public attention, he carried out his duties with steady dedication. His calm presence brought stability to meetings, and his reputation commanded respect. Newton learned to navigate these challenges without losing the quiet anchor of his inner world. Throughout these transitions, Newton remained deeply introspective. He reflected often on the nature of truth, the purpose of knowledge, and the mysteries that still lay beyond human understanding. He wrote with a gentle confidence, acknowledging the limits of his own insight. His humility, expressed in both public statements and private notes, reminded him that even the greatest minds grasp only a small part of the universe's vastness. As he grew older, Newton became increasingly reflective about his achievements. He understood the significance of his discoveries, yet he believed that much of his knowledge came not from brilliance, but from patience. He saw himself as someone who observed closely, thought deeply, and worked steadily, a craftsman of ideas rather than a seeker of glory. This perspective kept him grounded, even as the world around him changed dramatically. In quiet moments at the Royal Mint, Newton sometimes paused to consider the path his life had taken. From the fields of Woolsthorpe to the halls of Cambridge, from private study to public responsibility, his journey had unfolded in ways he could never have predicted. Yet through every stage, one constant remained: the calm, enduring curiosity that guided him. It was this curiosity that shaped his discoveries, carried him through challenges, and gave meaning to each new chapter. When Isaac Newton settled into his position at the Royal Mint, he entered a new chapter of life unlike anything he had experienced before. The quiet days of pure study at Cambridge had given way to a world filled with paperwork, investigations, and the steady clink of metal. Yet even in this new environment, Newton approached each task with the same calm discipline that had shaped his scientific work. The Mint was a place of order, or at least a place that needed order, and Newton carried with him a mind uniquely suited to restoring balance. London in the late 17th century was a city of contradictions, bustling markets beside narrow, torch-lit alleys, elegant halls standing above crowded taverns, and a population that moved restlessly through narrow streets. For someone like Newton, whose life had long been built upon silence, the city felt overwhelming at first, but he adapted gradually, creating routines that allowed him to navigate the noise. He walked to the Mint early each morning, while the city was still waking, finding peace in the soft light of dawn rising over the river. These quiet hours helped ease him into the responsibilities that awaited him. The situation at the Mint was more dire than Newton had expected. Counterfeiting had spread across England, draining trust in the currency and pushing the economy toward crisis. The quality of coins varied wildly, and many people shaved silver from the edges, diminishing their value. Newton studied the problem with steady patience, examining coins under lamplight, weighing them with meticulous care, and reviewing old records to understand how corruption had taken root. The task demanded both precision and resolve, qualities he possessed in abundance. Newton approached the problem like a scientist. He categorized the styles of counterfeits, analyzed patterns in their distribution, and identified weaknesses in the minting process that allowed for fraud. He created systems to test the purity of metals with unprecedented accuracy and introduced new standards for the weight and composition of coins. His reforms were not hurried but deliberate, each step guided by logic and a desire for lasting stability. For Newton, improving the currency was not merely an administrative duty, it was a way to bring clarity and fairness to a system clouded by disorder. His role soon expanded beyond analysis. Newton supervised the Great Recoinage of 1696, one of the most ambitious financial projects in English history. Old, unreliable coins were recalled and replaced with precisely minted ones. The process required immense coordination, staff, materials, security, and careful timing. Newton moved through these challenges with quiet determination, never raising his voice, never showing distress. His calm presence reassured those who worked under him, and his insistence on accuracy set a new standard for the institution. While Newton excelled in the technical aspects of his role, he also faced the darker side of London's criminal world. Counterfeiters operated in secret workshops buried within the city's labyrinth of streets. They used crude tools, melted stolen metals, and forged coins with dangerous skill. Newton launched investigations, gathering evidence with the same steady focus he applied to scientific experiment. He questioned suspects, followed leads, and worked with informants who provided details whispered in shadowed corners. These investigations, though unsettling, revealed the practical courage Newton carried within him, a quiet strength rooted in conviction rather than force. One of his most challenging adversaries was William Challoner, a master counterfeiter known for his cunning and charm. Challoner had a talent for deception and had evaded punishment for years by manipulating officials and exploiting weaknesses in the system. Newton studied his operations carefully, examining forged coins, tracking associates, and building a case brick by brick. The process required patience and emotional steadiness, qualities that defined Newton's temperament. When the case finally went to trial, the evidence he gathered led to Challoner's conviction. Though Newton never celebrated, those around him recognized the significance of this quiet victory. As his responsibilities deepened, Newton's personal life remained simple and restrained. He lived alone, maintaining his routines with quiet consistency. His home contained few decorations, but many books, theological works, scientific manuscripts, and records related to the mint. He read late into the night, often sitting beside a small fire, while the city outside his window hummed with activity. His solitude, rather than isolating him, gave him clarity. He was a man who understood himself, and he shaped his life around the gentle rhythm that allowed his mind to flourish. Despite his growing presence in public matters, Newton continued to think deeply about science. He kept notebooks filled with diagrams and formulas, refining ideas he had developed years earlier. He revisited his theories of motion and gravitation, adjusting small details with the precision of a craftsman. These quiet scientific reflections provided comfort, grounding him when administrative responsibilities became overwhelming. Even as the world demanded practical action, Newton found peace in the contemplative stillness of mathematics. Over time, Newton's reputation in London shifted from brilliant but solitary scholar to practical and dependable public figure. Colleagues admired his fairness, his patience, and his unwavering dedication. He treated everyone, from high-ranking officials to modest mint workers, with the same measured respect. His calm demeanor brought a sense of stability to the institution, and his reforms left a lasting impact on England's financial system. Though he never sought political power or public praise, his presence influenced the city in quiet, meaningful ways. Newton's friendships during this period were few but genuine. He grew close to a small circle of scholars, including John Locke and other intellectual figures who shared his deep curiosity. Their conversations ranged from theology to natural philosophy, always conducted with calm respect. Newton valued these relationships, even if he struggled at times with the vulnerability they required. His sensitivity, honed by years of introspection, made him cautious about emotional closeness, yet with trusted friends, he allowed glimpses of his gentle warmth to emerge. Despite the demands of the Mint, Newton maintained an interest in the Royal Society. He corresponded with members, reviewed manuscripts, and offered guidance when asked. His reputation as a thinker continued to grow, and scholars throughout Europe referenced his work with admiration. Eventually, in 1703, Newton was elected president of the Royal Society, a position that solidified his standing as one of the leading intellectual figures of the age. Though he accepted the role with calm dignity, he carried its responsibilities with great care. As president, Newton sought to stabilize and strengthen the society. He organized meetings, encouraged research, and supported promising scholars. His leadership was steady, methodical, and thoughtful. He preferred quiet discussion over heated debate and valued unity more than division. Under his guidance, the society entered a new era of collaboration and discovery. His presence inspired confidence, and members treated him with deep respect, not out of obligation, but out of genuine appreciation for his integrity. During this time, Newton also embarked on projects to revise and expand the Principia. He reviewed earlier calculations, refined arguments, and clarified sections that had sparked confusion. His desire for precision remained undiminished, and he approached revisions with the same calm focus that had guided the original work. These updates reflected not only his continued intellectual growth, but also his enduring commitment to truth. Even decades after his initial discoveries, Newton remained a student of the universe, always searching, always refining. As he aged, Newton's life settled into a steady rhythm. He spent his mornings at the Mint, afternoons attending meetings or reviewing correspondence, and evenings reading by firelight. He cared little for luxury or extravagance. His home remained modest, filled with quiet corners where he could think. He wrote reflections on faith, exploring the intersection of creation and natural law. These writings revealed a gentle spirituality woven deeply into his worldview, thoughtful, introspective, and rooted in gratitude. London, with all its noise and chaos, gradually became part of Newton's inner landscape. He learned to find calm within its movement, creating pockets of stillness wherever he went. Though he sometimes missed the quiet fields of Woolsthorpe, he carried their memory within him like a soft echo. The boy who once watched shadows in farmyard dust had become a man shaping the monetary and intellectual foundations of a nation. Yet in essence, he remained the same, observant, gentle, and endlessly curious. As Isaac Newton entered the later decades of his life, the world around him shifted in dramatic ways, yet he himself remained guided by the same quiet habits that had carried him through childhood, Cambridge, and the Royal Mint. London grew louder and busier with every passing year, filled with merchants, carriages, and the restless hum of a population in constant motion. But Newton's personal world remained one of stillness, a life shaped by disciplined routine, thoughtful reflection, and an enduring search for understanding. Even amid grandeur and responsibility, he moved like a calm figure through a restless landscape. During this period, Newton often reflected on the work that had shaped his legacy. His discoveries had transformed the intellectual landscape of Europe, Yet he never viewed them through the lens of greatness. Instead, he saw them as stepping stones, pieces of a broader tapestry that stretched far beyond his lifetime. He remained convinced that the universe still held mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and he encouraged younger scholars to pursue their own paths with patience and humility. His wisdom, though quiet, influenced generations who saw him as a mentor from afar. Despite his growing responsibilities, Newton never let go of the contemplative spirit that had defined him since childhood. He continued revisiting his studies of light, motion, and mathematics, often late into the night when London finally grew quiet. He refined earlier theories, tested new ideas, and sought connections between natural laws and deeper philosophical truths. His thinking had matured into something calm and expansive, no longer driven solely by curiosity, but by a sense of harmony he perceived within creation. Each new insight felt like a soft illumination, widening his understanding of the universe's structure. Among the subjects that drew him deeper during these years was the nature of light. Newton had long believed that light consisted of particles, or corpuscles, each carrying distinct properties. This view contrasted with the wave theory supported by some of his contemporaries. Though the debate would continue long after his lifetime, Newton explored it with his usual precision. He conducted gentle experiments with prisms, observing how beams refracted, separated, and converged. Candlelight flickering through glass became a quiet window into nature's hidden architecture, and these simple moments of study brought him the same serenity he had always found in quiet observation. His interest in optics extended into practical work as well. Newton continued improving his reflecting telescope design, refining its components, and advising others on its construction. The telescope became a symbol of his ability to bring abstract reasoning into tangible form. It allowed observers to see celestial objects with clarity previously impossible, offering a direct connection to the heavens he had studied so deeply. While Newton cared little for recognition, he understood that his inventions helped others appreciate the beauty of the universe, a gift he quietly cherished. In parallel with his scientific pursuits, Newton deepened his theological studies. These writings filled thousands of pages, revealing a mind immersed not only in physical laws, but in spiritual questions. He examined ancient texts, questioning traditions, and seeking the origins of religious beliefs. His approach to theology mirrored his approach to science, careful, measured, and grounded in a search for truth. Newton saw the natural world and the divine as intertwined, believing that studying one revealed insights into the other. This synthesis brought him profound peace, offering a framework that balanced intellect with faith. As president of the Royal Society, Newton guided scientific discourse with a calm but firm hand. Meetings were held in quiet halls lined with books and instruments, where scholars gathered to present observations or debate theories. Newton presided with dignity, encouraging thoughtful discussion while maintaining order. He valued clarity over spectacle, preferring reasoned analysis to passionate argument. Under his leadership, the Society grew into a respected institution that nurtured research across disciplines. Though Newton rarely displayed emotion, his influence was felt in every quiet decision that shaped the Society's direction. Not all interactions were gentle, however. Newton's sensitivity made him vulnerable to criticism, and he found himself embroiled in several disputes, most notably with the German mathematician Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz over the invention of calculus. The controversy stirred strong feelings among scholars across Europe, each side defending their chosen champion. Newton, though deeply affected by the accusations, maintained outward composure. He responded not with hostility, but with careful documentation. He gathered letters, manuscripts, and dates, building a timeline that supported his claim. The debate weighed heavily on him, but he addressed it with the same steady discipline he applied to his scientific work. Despite the tensions of public life, Newton found solace in small routines. He often walked through St. James's Park at dawn when the city was still waking. The early morning air was cool, the paths quiet, and the sky painted with soft colors that reflected across the water. These walks reminded him of the fields of Woolsthorpe and the peace he felt as a young scholar. The gentle rhythm of nature grounded him, offering a momentary retreat from the complexities of leadership and public debate. Newton's home in London reflected his inner world. It was modest but filled with books, papers, and instruments. Many evenings he sat at a small desk illuminated by candlelight, surrounded by carefully organized manuscripts. He wrote slowly, thoughtfully, often pausing between sentences to reflect. His hand moved steadily across the page, guided by a mind that sought clarity without haste. The stillness of these moments carried a quiet beauty, a scholar at peace with his life's work, continuing to explore the mysteries that had fascinated him for decades. As Newton aged, he began receiving visitors from across Europe, scholars, admirers, and curious thinkers who wished to meet the man whose theories shaped modern science. They expected to find a forceful or commanding presence, but instead encountered someone gentle, soft-spoken, and surprisingly humble. Newton welcomed them with courtesy, offering explanations delivered in quiet tones. His calm demeanor disarmed even the most ambitious visitors, leaving them with a deeper respect for the man behind the ideas. They often described the encounter as peaceful, almost reverent. Despite his age, Newton remained active in public service. He managed the mint with vigilance, ensuring the integrity of the currency. He continued presiding over the Royal Society, guiding discussions and offering thoughtful insight. Even as his hair turned white and his step grew slower, he carried himself with dignified resolve. His mind remained sharp, though he increasingly relied on trusted assistants to help with administrative workloads. Through it all, the calm rhythm of his days persisted, a life anchored in thought and quiet duty. In private moments, Newton sometimes reflected on the passage of time. He looked back on his life with a sense of gentle awe, acknowledging both its hardships and its wonders. He thought of Woolsthorpe, where curiosity first awakened in him. He thought of Cambridge, where his ideas matured in candlelit rooms. He thought of the orchard, the falling apple, and the long walks that shaped his thinking. These memories drifted through his mind like soft echoes from another world, reminding him of how far he had traveled. Newton's later writings reveal a growing interest in the limits of human knowledge. He believed that the universe was far larger, more complex, and more beautiful than anyone could comprehend. Yet far from discouraging him, this realization filled him with humility. He saw himself as a participant in a long tradition of inquiry, one thinker among many, contributing a small piece to a much greater whole. This perspective allowed him to embrace uncertainty with grace, finding comfort in the idea that truth was a journey, not a destination. His health gradually began to decline, marked by fatigue, aches, and the slowing of his once steady movements. Yet he continued working, reading, and reflecting. Friends noted that Newton's calm presence deepened with age, giving him a gentle wisdom that made his company soothing. He spoke more softly, listened more intently, and appreciated quiet conversations. His mind remained clear, anchored in the same curiosity that had guided him throughout his life. As Newton's physical strength waned, he leaned more heavily on trusted colleagues and assistants. They helped organize his papers, manage correspondence, and support his responsibilities at the Royal Society. Yet, in every decision, his voice remained steady. He directed with thoughtfulness, never rushing, never burdening others with urgency. The calmness that defined his work now defined his leadership, creating an atmosphere of respect and tranquility around him. In these twilight years, Newton's legacy began to crystallize in the minds of those who knew him. Scholars viewed him as the architect of a new scientific era, a thinker whose insights reshaped the world's understanding of nature. Yet those who spent time in his presence sensed something deeper, a gentle soul who approached the universe with wonder, who loved discovery for its own sake, and who saw beauty in the harmony of natural laws. His contributions extended beyond formulas and theories. They encompassed a way of seeing the world through quiet curiosity. Despite the admiration surrounding him, Newton remained grounded. He often repeated that he felt like a child on the seashore, gathering smooth pebbles while the vast ocean of truth lay undiscovered before him. These words captured the essence of his humility, a recognition that knowledge is infinite and that every discovery opens new questions. To Newton, this was not discouraging, but comforting. It meant that the world would never cease to inspire wonder. As Isaac Newton entered the later years of his career in London, he carried a calmness that seemed to deepen with age, settling over him like a soft mantle. His life had stretched far beyond anything he once imagined as a young boy in Woolsthorpe. Yet he moved through these years with the same quiet steps, the same thoughtful gaze, and the same patient curiosity that had always defined him. His accomplishments were celebrated across Europe, but for Newton, the world remained something to be studied gently, a place filled with mysteries worth approaching with humility. And so, even in old age, he continued to observe, think, and reflect with the steady rhythm that had guided him through every chapter of his life. London at the dawn of the 18th century was a place in constant motion, a city alive with trade, politics, and conversation. But Newton carved out a quieter existence within its boundaries. His home on Jermyn Street became a sanctuary from the noise, a modest residence filled with books, papers, and instruments, each placed with careful order. Visitors who entered often remarked on the calm of the space, as though the rooms themselves absorbed the quiet intensity of their owner. Candles burned softly in the evenings, illuminating the edges of manuscripts that held decades of thought. Newton cherished these hours, finding in them a refuge from public responsibility. Though he remained intellectually active, Newton's mind turned increasingly toward reflection. He often revisited the works that had shaped his own thinking, the writings of ancient philosophers, the findings of early astronomers, and the sacred texts he studied with fervor. He found meaning in the continuity of human thought, recognizing that every generation added a layer to the ongoing search for truth. This perspective softened him. It reminded him that knowledge was not a possession, but a shared journey across centuries, connecting minds separated by age and experience. As the years unfolded, Newton's leadership at the Royal Society remained steady and deliberate. Scholars continued to look to him for guidance, seeking clarity on matters ranging from astronomical calculations to the interpretation of experimental results. Newton offered his thoughts gently, preferring precision over authority. His presence at meetings brought a sense of calm, anchoring discussions in reason and mutual respect. Members described him as wise rather than commanding, a man whose influence came not from force, but from the quiet weight of insight. Yet these responsibilities were not without strain. The controversies surrounding the calculus dispute with Leibniz lingered, sometimes resurfacing in letters or publications. Newton tried to maintain composure, but his sensitivity made such debates difficult to bear. He valued truth deeply, and any challenge to his integrity troubled him. Still, as time passed, he learned to let these concerns soften. He found solace in the greater perspective of his life, in knowing that his work, regardless of criticism, contributed to a deeper understanding of nature. Peace returned to him through patience. Newton's role at the Mint also continued, though the daily pressures gradually lessened as he delegated more tasks to trusted colleagues. He remained vigilant, however, regularly reviewing reports, inspecting coinage, and overseeing any major reform. His standards had transformed the institution, establishing a level of precision and integrity that persisted long after his direct involvement waned. Colleagues respected him not only for his intellect, but for the calm fairness he brought to his duties. Through his quiet leadership, the Mint had evolved into a cornerstone of stability in England's economy. Outside his professional life, Newton found comfort in familiar activities. He enjoyed long walks, even as age slowed his steps. He liked to observe the changing skies, noting the movement of clouds and the shifting light across the Thames. He often paused on bridges, leaning gently on the railing as he watched the river flow. A reminder, perhaps, of nature's steady rhythms. These moments connected him to the landscapes of his youth, where the same sense of quiet had nurtured his earliest thoughts. In the soft movement of water and air, he found a serenity that no scientific proof could replicate. Newton also took pleasure in simple conversations with trusted friends. John Conduit, his assistant and later biographer, often walked with him through gardens or sat with him near the fire as they discussed science, philosophy, and the nature of time. Newton's manner during these talks was gentle and contemplative. He no longer spoke with the intensity of a young scholar driven by discovery. Instead, he offered ideas like reflections, thoughts refined by decades of observation. Those who knew him during these later years described him as calm, thoughtful, and quietly humorous in ways that surprised those who only knew his public persona. As he aged, Newton's body began to show signs of wear. He suffered from gout, discomfort in his joints, and periods of fatigue. Yet he approached these limitations with patience, acknowledging them as natural companions of growing older. He adjusted his routines, worked at a slower pace, and rested more frequently. But his mind, though softened by age, remained clear. He continued reading, writing, and reflecting with the same quiet devotion that had shaped his life. His curiosity endured, even if his physical strength did not. During these years, Newton often returned to the subject of time, not as a scientific variable, but as a presence woven through life. He pondered the way moments accumulate, how memory carries the weight of years, and how the past shapes the present with gentle persistence. He saw time not as an enemy, but as a companion, guiding him toward deeper understanding. His reflections grew more philosophical, blending his scientific perspective with a sense of reverence for the mysteries that lay beyond calculation. These thoughts brought him a quiet contentment. The connection between faith and science, always central to Newton's worldview, deepened in his later years. He spent many evenings reading scripture and theological writings, seeking clarity about the nature of creation. He believed that the laws of motion and gravity reflected a deeper order crafted with intention and beauty. Science, to him, was a way to glimpse the architecture of the divine, a way to appreciate the harmony that underpinned existence. This belief gave him comfort, grounding his work in meaning that extended beyond human recognition or debate. Visitors who came to see Newton during these years often left with a sense of peaceful awe. They encountered not the towering figure of legend, but a gentle, wise man who spoke softly and listened intently. Newton's manner invited contemplation. He encouraged younger scholars to pursue knowledge with humility, reminding them that certainty was rare and that every answer contained the seed of a new question. In these exchanges, Newton imparted a wisdom shaped not only by achievement, but by a lifetime of quiet introspection. In 1705, Newton received the title of knighthood from Queen Anne, a formal recognition of his contributions to science and public service. The ceremony was filled with dignitaries and applause, yet Newton remained composed and modest. He accepted the honor gracefully, acknowledging it as part of his duty rather than a celebration of personal greatness. The knighthood did not change him. He returned home that evening, reading by firelight as he always had, letting the world's praise settle into the background of his quiet existence. As the years progressed, Newton continued revising his scientific works. He prepared new editions of the Principia, clarified arguments in his writings on optics, and reviewed old notes that had remained untouched for decades. His revisions were careful and unhurried, reflecting both his commitment to accuracy and his acceptance that no work was ever truly complete. In these late efforts, Newton's approach to science mirrored his approach to life: patient, thoughtful, and grounded in the belief that truth emerges slowly through careful attention. As he entered his 80s, Newton spent more time in reflection than in writing. He often sat near his window in the late afternoon, watching the fading sunlight stretch across the rooftops of London. The city, once overwhelming, had grown familiar and comforting. He listened to the distant sounds of carriages, the soft murmur of pedestrians, and the gentle chime of church bells. These sounds blended into a peaceful backdrop for his thoughts. In such moments, he looked back on his life with gratitude, recognizing the unexpected journey that had unfolded from a small farmhouse in Lincolnshire. He thought often of Woolsthorpe, the orchard where he first saw an apple fall, the fields that shaped his early imagination, and the quiet nights spent watching the sky. These memories remained vivid, carrying a sense of innocence that steadied him. He believed that the curiosity awakened in childhood had guided him through his entire life, like a gentle thread weaving through decades of discovery. Even in the twilight of his years, he felt connected to that young boy who once traced shadows across the floorboards of a farmhouse attic. As Newton's physical strength continued to decline, he accepted the changes with dignity. He relied more on trusted family members and assistants who tended to his needs with respect and affection. His conversations grew shorter but no less thoughtful. He spent his final months reading scripture, reflecting on the universe, and enjoying the quiet presence of those who cared for him. His days became simpler, yet full of meaning, a calm descent into rest after a lifetime of thought. Newton passed peacefully on March 20th, 1727, surrounded by the quiet he had cherished throughout his life. His departure was gentle, without drama, as calm as the man himself. The world mourned his passing, recognizing that it had lost one of the greatest thinkers in history. But Newton's legacy, the laws of motion, the universal pull of gravity, the insights into light and mathematics, remained as steady and enduring as the cosmos he had helped to describe. When Isaac Newton left the world in 1727, his physical presence faded gently, but his influence began to spread with a depth and clarity that only time could reveal. The generations that followed stepped into a landscape transformed by his quiet brilliance. Ideas that once lived only in his notebooks and candlelit rooms expanded outward into textbooks, observatories, laboratories, and the minds of scholars across continents. It was as though his thoughts, once whispered to the universe in solitude, began to echo across centuries, calm, steady, and endlessly unfolding. In the years immediately after his passing, London entered a period of thoughtful reflection on the life of the man who had brought order to the cosmos. Scholars visited the Royal Society to read his manuscripts, tracing the carefully written lines that had once flowed from his hand. They examined his diagrams, his formulas, and the calm reasoning that built a bridge between heaven and earth. Many were struck not only by the brilliance of his ideas, but by their gentleness. Newton wrote with patience, guiding the reader step by step through a world that had once been confusing and chaotic. His clarity became a lighthouse for thinkers navigating the vast ocean of natural philosophy. The influence of the Principia grew steadily through the 18th century. Universities across Europe adopted Newton's laws of motion as foundational principles. Professors taught students how objects moved, how forces interacted, and how gravity united the heavens in harmonious order. For many, Newton's equations were more than mathematical tools. They were glimpses into the elegant structure of nature. His laws showed that the universe was not governed by accidents or whims, but by consistent patterns that could be understood with patience and observation. This realization brought comfort to minds eager for meaning amid the uncertainties of life. In France, scholars such as Voltaire embraced Newton's work, helping spread it beyond the scientific community and into the cultural imagination. Voltaire wrote about Newton with admiration, describing him as a man who had lifted the veil that once obscured the universe. His partner, Émilie du Châtelet, translated the Principia into French and provided commentary that illuminated its most complex ideas. Her translation became one of the most influential scientific works of the era, ensuring that Newton's insights reached new audiences with clarity and grace. In her hands, Newton's ideas gained a new softness, translated through a mind that appreciated both logic and philosophy. This period marked the beginning of what many called the Age of Reason, an era in which thinkers sought to understand the world through observation and logic rather than superstition or tradition. Newton's calm, methodical approach to nature became a guiding model. He showed that the universe could be studied gently, without fear or haste. Scholars across Europe embraced this perspective, exploring new questions in astronomy, mathematics, chemistry, and biology using the same steady methods Newton had perfected. His legacy became a quiet foundation underlying countless discoveries. As the decades passed, Newton's influence grew beyond the realm of science. Philosophers used his ideas to argue for a balanced, orderly universe. Artists admired the harmony he revealed in nature, drawing inspiration from the mathematical patterns underlying form, light, and motion. Writers referenced him as a symbol of intellectual humility, a thinker who achieved greatness without seeking glory. Newton became a cultural figure, his name synonymous with curiosity, patience, and quiet brilliance. The world did not merely study his ideas, it cherished the gentle spirit that shaped them. In the 19th century, the scientific revolution that Newton had ignited continued to blossom. Engineers used his laws to design bridges, machines, and engines. Astronomers relied on his gravitational equations to predict celestial events with remarkable precision. Geologists used his ideas about force and motion to understand earthquakes and the shifting of land masses. Even meteorologists applied his principles to study atmospheric pressure and wind. Newton's work became a thread woven through nearly every scientific discipline, a hidden structure supporting the vast tapestry of discovery. Yet as science progressed, new questions began to emerge, questions that stretched beyond the boundaries of Newton's laws. Astronomers observed phenomena that classical mechanics could not fully explain. Physicists encountered forces and particles that behaved in unfamiliar ways. And slowly, a sense arose that Newton's universe, though beautifully constructed, was only part of a deeper, more mysterious reality. But far from diminishing Newton's legacy, these developments revealed the strength of his contributions. His laws were not the final answer. They were the foundation upon which future discoveries would be built. Even Albert Einstein, who would one day reshape physics with his theory of relativity, spoke of Newton with profound respect. Einstein described Newton's achievements as a shining example of what the human mind can accomplish. He understood that his own discoveries did not replace Newton's ideas, but extended them. Newton had uncovered the structure of the visible world, while Einstein explored the hidden layers beneath it. In this sense, the two men formed a quiet partnership across centuries, one mind building gently upon the insights of another. Throughout these intellectual revolutions, Newton's presence remained steady. Scientists still used his equations for everyday calculations, and his methods continued to shape the way research was conducted. His influence extended not only into scientific theory, but into the way people thought about truth. Newton showed that understanding emerges not from sudden flashes of brilliance, but from careful observation, discipline, and humility. He offered a model for intellectual integrity, a reminder that progress grows through gentle persistence rather than ambition alone. Outside the academic world, Newton's legacy touched everyday life in countless subtle ways. The clocks that regulated daily routines relied on principles of motion he had clarified. The ships that navigated oceans used astronomical tables based on his equations. Engineers designing roads, buildings, and tools drew unconsciously on his laws. Even the simple act of watching an object fall, a pebble dropped into a pond, a leaf drifting from a tree, carried echoes of Newton's insight into gravity. His ideas became part of the background of life, present even when unnoticed. As the centuries turned, Newton's image also became part of cultural memory. Portraits of him hung in universities, libraries, and museums. Artists depicted him as a serene, contemplative figure, a man at peace with thought. Writers described him as a solitary genius who searched for truth, not in the noise of society, but in the quiet patterns of nature. These portrayals, though sometimes idealized, reflected the essence of the man himself. Newton had always preferred stillness, always valued introspection, and always approached the universe with gentle curiosity. In the 20th century, Newton's contributions took on new meaning as technology advanced. His laws of motion shaped the physics behind airplanes, cars, satellites, and rockets. His understanding of gravity guided the exploration of space. Engineers designing spacecraft relied on his calculations to reach the moon, navigate beyond Earth's atmosphere, and send probes into the distant reaches of the solar system. The journeys that followed, Apollo missions, Voyager probes, space telescopes, all carried traces of Newton's quiet mind. Each movement through the cosmos echoed principles he had uncovered centuries earlier. At the same time, modern scientists began examining Newton's lesser-known writings, his papers on alchemy, theology, and chronology. These works revealed a more complex and deeply human side of him. They showed a man not driven solely by intellectual achievement, but by a profound desire to understand the world's meaning. Newton had sought unity in all things, in the structure of creation, the patterns of Scripture, and the harmony of natural laws. For many, these writings added depth to his legacy, revealing the vulnerability, curiosity, and spiritual longing beneath his calm reasoning. Newton's resting place at Westminster Abbey became a quiet point of pilgrimage. Visitors stood before his monument in silence, contemplating the journey from a small farmhouse in Lincolnshire to a place among kings and poets. His tomb bore the Latin inscription celebrating his discoveries and declaring that mortals rejoice that so great an ornament to the human race existed. Yet those who reflected more deeply sensed something gentler in his legacy than the grandeur carved in stone. They sensed a life shaped not by ambition, but by the simple desire to understand the world. As the modern age unfolded, Newton's ideas continued to permeate culture. His laws appeared in films, books, lectures, and classrooms. Children learned about falling apples and universal gravity. Students traced the same equations he once drew by candlelight. Physicists built upon his insights to reach unimaginable frontiers, black holes, quantum particles, and cosmic expansion. Through it all, Newton's spirit remained like a quiet companion to human progress, guiding minds with the same calm clarity that had shaped his own. In the present day, Newton's influence feels more alive than ever. His laws still govern engineering and mechanics. His mathematical techniques underpin modern computation. His approach to science, careful experimentation, precise reasoning, and humble curiosity remains a cornerstone of research across the world. He stands not as a distant historical figure, but as a constant presence woven into the very fabric of understanding. Yet perhaps the most enduring part of Newton's legacy is not his discoveries, but the way he approached them. He showed that genius can be gentle, that brilliance can be quiet, that the pursuit of truth does not require noise or spectacle, but patience, sensitivity, and an openness to the mysteries of nature. His life teaches that even the most extraordinary insights can arise from the simplest moments: an apple falling, a shadow shifting, a question whispered in solitude. In the centuries following Isaac Newton's passing, the world gradually reshaped itself around the framework he had left behind. His laws, once lines of ink written quietly by candlelight, became the foundation of entire disciplines. Schools taught his principles as though they were part of nature itself, as inseparable from understanding the world as the sunrise or the turning of the seasons. Yet behind these universal truths remained the memory of a solitary thinker who had discovered them with patience, humility, and a deep sense of wonder. Newton's legacy grew not through noise, but through the calm endurance of ideas that resonated long after his voice had faded. The 18th and 19th centuries, filled with revolutions in science, industry, and society, often looked back to Newton as the symbolic beginning of a new way of seeing the world. Thinkers described his life as the moment when humanity first learned to read the laws of nature with clarity. Philosophers compared his insights to lanterns carried into dark rooms, revealing structures that had always existed but had remained hidden until he illuminated them. For many, Newton became a quiet guide, a reminder that truth emerges slowly through careful thought and gentle observation. His influence extended far beyond academics. Architects designing bridges and domes unconsciously relied on principles he had clarified. Mariners crossing vast oceans trusted calculations grounded in his laws. Farmers, without realizing it, worked under patterns of weather and motion that Newton had explained centuries earlier. Everyday life, from the movement of carriages on cobblestone streets to the winding gears of clocks, unfolded within the framework he had revealed. The world seemed calmer, more predictable, because someone had taken the time to understand it. As the industrial age emerged, Newton's work found new expression in machines, factories, and engines. Engineers realized that motion could be controlled with precision, that forces could be harnessed to lift, pull, and power. Steam engines operated according to predictable mechanics. Railways stretched across continents using calculations grounded in Newtonian physics. Factories filled with gears and belts moved in steady rhythm, echoing the laws he had written. In these mechanical symphonies, Newton's quiet genius became part of the heartbeat of civilization, guiding an era defined by innovation. Yet this rapid progress also created new questions, mysteries so subtle that they stretched beyond the limits of Newton's explanations. Scientists noticed deviations in Mercury's orbit, slight irregularities that resisted classical equations. Others observed behavior in electricity and magnetism that suggested forces more intricate than Newton had accounted for. These anomalies did not diminish his legacy. Instead, they highlighted the vastness of the universe and the evolving nature of inquiry. Newton had built the doorway, but the world beyond it remained full of secrets waiting to be discovered. In the early 20th century, this frontier invited a new kind of thinker, Albert Einstein. Though Einstein would revolutionize physics with his theories of relativity, he approached Newton with profound respect. He once wrote that Newton's achievements single out the human race from all other species. Einstein saw in Newton not a rival, but a kindred spirit, someone who had stared into the vastness of the universe and found beauty in its order. Even as Einstein's work extended beyond Newton's limits, it rested firmly on the foundation Newton had built. Relativity did not replace Newtonian physics. It expanded it, illuminating parts of the cosmic landscape that classical mechanics could not reach. Scientific revolutions continued, uncovering quantum particles, the expansion of the universe, and the behavior of light across unimaginable distances. The discoveries of the modern age often seemed strange, chaotic, and counterintuitive, worlds far removed from the calm certainty of Newton's equations. Yet even in these complexities, his influence persisted. Physicists used Newtonian mechanics as approximations, engineers relied on them for practical design, and students learned them as the language through which the natural world first becomes comprehensible. Newton's ideas became a bridge connecting human intuition to deeper, more mysterious truths. Culturally, Newton's image evolved into something almost mythic. Artists painted him as a serene, luminous figure gazing at the stars. Writers described him as the archetype of the solitary genius. Statues and monuments portrayed him with calm dignity, often holding a prism, a book, or an apple, symbols of the quiet moments that sparked his greatest insights. Though these images romanticized his life, they captured something true: the gentle determination that guided a mind searching for harmony in the universe. In classrooms across the world, children grew up hearing the story of Newton watching an apple fall from a tree. Teachers used the anecdote not as a literal moment of discovery, but as a symbol of curiosity, a reminder that profound ideas often arise from simple observations. The story became a gentle message passed from one generation to the next. Pay attention, look closely, let your mind wander. In this way, Newton continued to touch lives, not through equations alone, but through the spirit of inquiry he embodied. As the modern world expanded into the digital age, Newton's influence remained woven into the technologies that shaped everyday life. Computer algorithms operated on principles that echoed his mathematical clarity. Satellites orbited Earth according to the laws he had described. Spacecraft traveling to distant planets followed trajectories predicted by Newton's gravitational equations. Even the devices people carried in their pockets, phones, GPS systems, sensors, relied on frameworks he had established. His mind, once alone in a quiet Cambridge room, now guided machines across the solar system. But perhaps the most meaningful part of Newton's legacy was the way he inspired a new vision of human potential. His life showed that knowledge could be pursued calmly and patiently without the need for fame or recognition. He demonstrated that intellect can coexist with humility, that the pursuit of truth can be gentle rather than forceful. Generations of scientists admired his ability to remain grounded despite his extraordinary achievements. Newton taught them that greatness is not about power or applause, but about dedication to understanding, a dedication he carried quietly from childhood until his final days. As centuries passed, historians began exploring the more personal dimensions of Newton's character. They read his letters, analyzed his unpublished manuscripts, and studied accounts from those who knew him. These writings revealed a man who was sensitive, introspective, and deeply thoughtful. Newton experienced moments of loneliness, frustration, and doubt, yet he persevered with gentle determination. He cared deeply about honesty, precision, and moral integrity. He sought not only scientific truth, but spiritual meaning, weaving together faith and reason in a way that shaped every aspect of his life. These insights added softness to his legacy. They showed that behind the monumental achievements was a quiet soul, someone who valued solitude, who found beauty in order, and who approached the world with both curiosity and reverence. This human dimension made his story even more inspiring, reminding modern readers that extraordinary ideas can arise from the most private corners of the heart. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, Newton's presence in global culture had become almost universal. His name appeared in films, literature, advertising, and casual conversation. His laws formed the backbone of introductory science courses, Schools celebrated him as one of history's greatest thinkers. Yet even in this widespread recognition, the quiet essence of his legacy endured. People admired not only what he accomplished, but how he accomplished it, with patience, humility, and a gentle, unhurried devotion to truth. Today, Newton's influence continues to guide both scientific research and everyday life. Physicists still use his equations to launch rockets and analyze motion. Engineers rely on his principles to design structures, machines, and technologies. Astronomers calculate orbits and trajectories using the gravitational laws he revealed. And students across the world first learn to understand the universe through the framework he created. Newton remains a silent partner in countless discoveries, his ideas flowing through modern civilization like a calm, steady current. Yet his most enduring contribution may be something far simpler, a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge begins with stillness. Newton showed that quiet observation can reveal the deepest truths. He taught that the universe is a place of beauty, governed by laws that reward those who take the time to listen. His life stands as a testament to the power of gentle curiosity, to the idea that wisdom grows slowly, and that the mind, when calm and attentive, can uncover wonders far beyond imagination. In the centuries after Isaac Newton's discoveries reshaped science, the world slowly began to realize how far his influence extended. His laws, once fragile lines sketched in private notebooks, proved strong enough to support revolutions, not political upheavals, but revolutions of thought, understanding, and imagination. The universe, once unpredictable and filled with mystery, began to feel ordered and approachable. Newton had not removed the wonder from the cosmos. He had revealed that the wonder itself had a structure, a calm rhythm that governed everything from falling leaves to the movement of distant planets. This realization created a foundation upon which future generations could dream even bigger. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, scholars built new sciences upon Newton's principles. Astronomy blossomed into a discipline defined by precision, its practitioners calculating orbits, predicting eclipses, and mapping stars with confidence born from Newton's gravitational insights. Mathematicians expanded the techniques he devised, finding new ways to describe motion, force, and change. Even thinkers outside the realm of science admired the calm elegance of his ideas. Philosophers spoke of Newton as someone who had revealed nature's grand design, showing that human reason could gently illuminate truths once hidden in darkness. As Newton's influence grew, so did the desire to preserve and understand the personal story behind his achievements. Historians collected letters, manuscripts, and testimonies from those who had known him. They studied his handwriting, traced his thoughts across decades of notes, and pieced together the private world of a man who rarely spoke of himself. What they found was a portrait of a thinker whose life was shaped not by glory, but by quiet devotion, a man who believed that truth was sacred and that understanding required patience. This image of Newton resonated deeply, forming the emotional core of his legacy. During the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution transformed society at a breathtaking pace, and Newton's laws became essential tools for this new world of invention. Engineers designed machines powered by steam, harnessing motion in ways that echoed Newtonian mechanics. Railways stretched across cities and countryside, their locomotives driven by forces that Newton had mathematically described centuries earlier. Bridges, ships, and factories all relied on principles of stress, motion, and equilibrium that derived directly from his work. In these massive constructions, the quiet observations of a man studying an apple's fall became the backbone of an age defined by innovation. As technology advanced, another transformation occurred, a shift in how humanity understood its place in the universe. Newton's insights encouraged people to see themselves not as isolated beings in a chaotic world, but as participants in a vast, interconnected system governed by laws. This perspective encouraged confidence, inspiring artists, writers, and thinkers to explore themes of order, harmony, and balance. It influenced poetry, architecture, literature, and music. A quiet thread linked all these expressions, the belief that beneath the surface of life existed a structure that could be understood, appreciated, and celebrated. In the early 20th century, physics underwent a profound transformation as Albert Einstein, Niels Bohr, Max Planck, and others began exploring realms beyond the reach of classical mechanics. They studied particles smaller than Newton could have imagined and speeds faster than he believed possible. Their discoveries challenged some aspects of Newton's worldview, revealing that space, time, and energy behaved differently on cosmic and quantum scales. Yet instead of overshadowing Newton's achievements, these revelations highlighted their enduring importance. Einstein himself often remarked that his own theories existed only because Newton had paved the way. The universe had become larger, but Newton's insights remained the foundation of its comprehension. What fascinated many scientists about Newton's legacy was not just the accuracy of his laws, but the method he introduced, the gentle discipline of observation, experiment, and mathematical reasoning. His approach became a model for scientific inquiry. Researchers in fields as distant as biology, geology, and psychology applied Newton's spirit of patient questioning to their own work. They learned to trust evidence over assumption, clarity over speculation, and humility over certainty. In this way, Newton's influence expanded far beyond physics, shaping the very culture of research itself. Meanwhile, Newton's personal writings, particularly those on theology, alchemy, and history, continued to intrigue scholars. These manuscripts revealed a mind that saw unity in every corner of existence. To Newton, the natural world and the spiritual world were not separate. They were threads woven into the same tapestry. He believed that every physical law hinted at deeper meaning, and that understanding the cosmos brought humanity closer to the divine. These reflections added emotional depth to his legacy, reminding future generations that science was not only about equations, but about wonder, purpose, and reverence. In classrooms across the globe, students continued to learn Newton's laws as their first introduction to physics. Teachers presented his principles with care, guiding young minds toward the realization that the world was shaped by patterns they could explore and understand. Many students experienced the same quiet thrill Newton had felt as a young scholar. The feeling that the universe was not distant or unknowable, but gently inviting them to look closer. Through these lessons, Newton became a quiet companion in the learning process, his ideas forming the first stepping stones toward deeper curiosity. As the modern world moved into the space age, Newton's influence took on new dimensions. Rockets were launched into orbit using gravitational calculations derived from the Principia. Satellites traced elegant arcs around Earth, their movement predicted precisely by Newton's equations. Explorers sent probes to Jupiter, Saturn, and beyond, each mission guided by trajectories that reflected his laws. Humanity's reach into space, once a dream, became reality through the quiet work of a man who had never left England. Every spacecraft became a tribute to his insight, a metal body moving through the heavens according to principles discovered centuries earlier. The 21st century brought further expansion of Newton's legacy into technology, engineering, and computer science. Robots moved according to algorithms built on Newtonian mechanics. Virtual worlds used physics engines grounded in his equations. Even medical devices relied on principles he had uncovered. Newton's influence became so deeply embedded in daily life that most people no longer recognized it. It was simply part of the world, as present and invisible as the gravity he had once described with such calm precision. Yet, despite the vast reach of his ideas, Newton's legacy retained a gentle quality. He remained a figure associated not with ambition, but with introspection. His story continued to inspire those who felt different, solitary, or quiet. Students who preferred stillness over conversation saw themselves in him. Thinkers who worked slowly and methodically felt comforted by his example. Newton showed that brilliance does not require noise, that profound discoveries can be made in the soft spaces of solitude, and that calm minds can change the world just as powerfully as bold ones. Throughout history, great thinkers often return to Newton when contemplating the nature of discovery. They speak of his humility, noting that he never claimed to have unlocked every secret of the universe. He viewed himself as someone picking up shells on the shore while the infinite ocean stretched before him. This metaphor became a symbol of scientific humility, the recognition that knowledge is vast and that even the brightest minds take only small steps toward understanding. Newton's humility, expressed so gently, became one of his most cherished lessons to the world. In the quiet corners of libraries, researchers still open Newton's manuscripts, tracing the delicate handwriting that once captured the birth of modern science. They find equations written with surprising neatness, diagrams drawn with care, and sentences shaped by a mind both disciplined and sensitive. These pages have become windows into his thoughts, a way to feel his presence across centuries. Many scholars describe the experience as calming, almost meditative. Newton seems to speak across time, not with authority, but with companionship, inviting future generations to explore alongside him. As Newton's legacy continued to evolve, museums preserved his personal items, his walking stick, his telescope, his notebooks, and small artifacts from his life. Visitors paused before these objects in reverent silence. They found it humbling that such simple tools had contributed to a transformation so profound. These displays reminded them that history is shaped not by grandeur, but by individual moments of curiosity, by quiet hours of thinking, and by the gentle persistence of minds like Newton's. Today, Newton is remembered not only as the author of the Principia, but as a symbol of human potential. His life shows that great insight can come from calm observation. That knowledge grows slowly, like dawn spreading across a landscape. That curiosity, when nurtured, becomes a lifelong companion. People across the world continue to find comfort in his story, comfort in the idea that the universe is orderly, that it can be understood, and that even the quietest among us can uncover truths that reshape the world. As the world entered the modern era, Isaac Newton's legacy settled deeper into the foundations of human understanding, becoming a quiet constant in an age of rapid change. The 20th and 21st centuries transformed nearly every aspect of daily life. Technology accelerated, discoveries multiplied, and human imagination reached further than ever before. Through all this motion, Newton's presence endured like a soft guiding light, woven invisibly into the systems, tools, and ideas that shaped the contemporary world. His influence no longer felt like the echo of a distant era. It felt like a companion moving gently alongside humanity's progress. Scientists, philosophers, and educators continued to return to Newton's work as a touchstone, a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge begins with careful observation and a willingness to question the familiar. Even as new theories expanded the boundaries of physics, Newton's approach remained the baseline for clear thinking. His laws still governed the calculations in classrooms, laboratories, and engineering firms. The clarity he offered became more valuable as the modern world grew increasingly complex, providing a sense of order in a time of shifting landscapes. In this way, Newton's calm reasoning helped anchor minds navigating the evolving frontiers of science. Technology, once unimaginable in Newton's time, blossomed into forms that relied quietly on his insights. The microchips in computers processed information through electrical motions grounded in classical mechanics. Satellites tracing smooth arcs around Earth obeyed his gravitational laws with perfect precision. Even the modern conveniences of everyday life, elevators, vehicles, sensors, medical devices, operated within Newtonian frameworks. People moved through a world built on principles he described long ago, often without realizing that the stability they relied on had been shaped by the mind of a quiet scholar who once studied alone by candlelight. In universities across the globe, physics students still encountered Newton early in their studies. They learned about his 3 laws of motion, his description of universal gravitation, and his contributions to calculus. They traced problems using diagrams reminiscent of those he once drew. These lessons introduced not only scientific principles, but an attitude, one of patience, clarity, and curiosity. Teachers often noted that Newton's work provided a sense of calm coherence amid the swirl of modern scientific topics. Students felt reassured by the elegance of his equations and the intuitive nature of his explanations. Beyond the academic world, Newton became a figure admired for his humility and depth. Writers explored his personal struggles, examining the loneliness he carried, the sensitivity that shaped his reactions, and the contemplative spirit that guided his choices. These human elements added warmth to his story, revealing a man who achieved greatness not through ambition, but through devotion to understanding. Newton's life resonated with individuals who felt quiet, introspective, or out of step with the noise of the world. He offered them comfort, a reminder that thinking deeply, moving slowly, and working privately were not weaknesses, but strengths. Modern philosophers revisited Newton's writings on theology and metaphysics, finding in them an unexpected gentleness. Though many of his conclusions differed from contemporary beliefs, his approach inspired admiration. Newton searched for unity in all things, the natural, the spiritual, the historical, believing that creation held meaning waiting to be discovered. This worldview encouraged a sense of harmony that appealed to those seeking connection in an era of fragmentation. His reflections bridged eras, offering a timeless reminder that science and meaning need not exist in opposition. Artists, too, found inspiration in Newton's legacy. Painters depicted him bathed in soft celestial light, surrounded by prisms and stars. Musicians composed works reflecting the harmony he revealed in the cosmos. Writers used him as a symbol of introspection, portraying characters who, like Newton, found solace in quiet contemplation. His story became a cultural motif, a gentle reminder that profound discoveries often arise from moments of stillness, curiosity, and care. As space exploration advanced, Newton's ideas gained new significance. Every launch, every orbit, every mission to distant planets depended on the gravitational principles he discovered. Engineers used his equations to guide probes beyond the solar system, sending them into interstellar space where they would drift for centuries. In this cosmic journey, Newton's work connected humanity to the vast expanse beyond Earth, turning the night sky into a place not only of mystery, but of measurable beauty. Even as telescopes peered deeper into the universe, revealing galaxies and nebulae far beyond his imagination, the laws he wrote remained essential tools for understanding. The further science progressed, the more intertwined Newton's legacy became with emerging disciplines. In biomechanics, his laws explained the movement of muscles and joints. In climate science, they helped model the flow of air and water across the planet. In robotics, they defined the motion of limbs and sensors. Even in finance and social sciences, Newton's ideas about change and equilibrium found metaphorical application. His influence seeped into areas he never studied, shaping modern thought in subtle, unexpected ways. As researchers ventured into quantum mechanics and relativity, they often contrasted their new discoveries with Newton's classical worldview. Yet, despite the differences, they admired the clarity and simplicity he brought to physics. His universe, grounded in predictable motion and harmonious forces, remained a powerful conceptual tool for explaining the world at human scale. Einstein once observed that Newton's work was the greatest step ever taken by a single man in the field of science. This sentiment persisted across generations, reflecting ongoing appreciation for the foundation Newton provided. In the 21st century, the digital age transformed the world into a network of information, communication, and innovation. Yet in this fast-paced environment, Newton's calmness became more relevant than ever. People found beauty in the simplicity of his laws, comfort in the predictability they offered, and wonder in the realization that the universe remained orderly despite technological noise. Educators used Newton as an example of how deep thought could emerge from stillness, an antidote to the hurried minds of modern life. Newton's legacy also inspired new conversations about the nature of genius. Scholars debated whether his brilliance came from natural talent, relentless curiosity, or the discipline of solitude. Many concluded that it was the harmony of these qualities, innate insight, gentle patience, and a mind tuned to quiet reflection, that made him extraordinary. This perspective encouraged a broader understanding of creativity, one that valued introspection as much as expression. Even today, Newton's name often surfaces during moments of scientific triumph. When engineers land a rover on Mars, when astronomers detect gravitational waves, when physicists analyze cosmic structures, Newton's framework lingers in the background. His ideas, though ancient in origin, remain deeply entwined with the present. They remind humanity that every discovery is part of a continuum, that theories evolve, and that even the greatest minds build upon what came before. Through the centuries, Newton's story has been told and retold in textbooks, documentaries, biographies, and quiet conversations between teachers and students. Each retelling adds a new layer, yet the core remains unchanged. A vulnerable, introspective boy grew into a thinker who reshaped the world by simply watching it closely. His journey continues to offer reassurance in a world that often feels rushed, uncertain, or overwhelming. Newton's life shows that wisdom grows slowly. Curiosity is a lifelong companion, and stillness holds the potential for extraordinary insight. As our journey with Isaac Newton comes to a close, let your breath settle into a slow, quiet rhythm. You have walked through his childhood fields, sat beside his candlelit desk, witnessed the birth of ideas that reshaped the world, and followed the soft echo of his influence across centuries. Through it all, one truth emerges gently. Newton's greatness was not loud nor forceful. It was calm. He showed us that the universe reveals its secrets to those who listen carefully, that wonder grows in silence, and that one thoughtful mind can illuminate the path of millions. As you drift toward rest, imagine the night sky the way Newton once saw it, wide, still, filled with quiet mysteries. Each star a reminder of the laws he uncovered, each movement a soft echo of his curiosity. Let that feeling wrap around you like a warm blanket, the comfort of knowing the universe is orderly, patient, and beautifully connected. Tonight, may Newton's story help your mind grow still. May his calm curiosity soothe your thoughts, and may his gentle wisdom guide you into peaceful sleep. Rest well. The universe is quiet, and so are you.